Today, we're diving into a topic that might sound old-fashioned, but is surprisingly common and very real: shingles. Now, if you've ever heard someone mention shingles, you might picture something you put on a roof. But no, we're talking about the medical condition, not home construction. Shingles is one of those illnesses that you don't hear about every day, yet chances are you probably know someone who has gone through it. Or maybe even you have. The big questions are, what exactly is shingles? Why does it happen? And perhaps most importantly, is it contagious? So, let's dive into it, right here, on History of Simple Things. Shingles is a painful skin condition caused by the same virus responsible for chickenpox, called the varicella-zoster virus. Here's the strange part. After you've had chickenpox as a kid, the virus doesn't completely leave your body. Instead, it sneaks off and goes dormant, hiding in your nerve cells like an unwanted houseguest who refuses to move out. Years, sometimes even decades later, this virus can wake up and resurface in the form of shingles. When shingles appears, it usually starts with a strange tingling, burning, or itching sensation on one side of the body. Then, red rashes develop and quickly turn into fluid-filled blisters. These blisters often appear in a stripe-like pattern wrapping around one side of the torso, chest, or face. And yes, they can be extremely painful. The condition is sometimes referred to as herpes zoster, but don't confuse it with the herpes virus that causes cold sores. It's not the same thing, even if they share part of the name. The big question people usually ask is, why does the chickenpox virus return as shingles after all those years? The answer has to do with your immune system. When you're young and healthy, your body's defenses keep the virus locked down. But as you get older, or if your immune system becomes weaker due to stress, illness, or certain medications, the virus can break free and reactivate. That's why shingles is much more common in people over 50, though younger people can get it too, especially if their immune systems are compromised. It's like the virus is always there in the background, waiting for the right moment to strike. And when it does, it tends to follow the path of nerves, which is why the rash forms in a very specific line instead of spreading randomly all over the body. People who have had shingles often describe it as one of the most painful things they've experienced. At first, it might feel like a sunburn or an itch you can't scratch. But as the blisters develop, the pain can become sharp, stabbing, or even burning. The sensitivity can be so extreme that even clothing brushing against the skin feels unbearable. The blisters usually last for about 2 to 4 weeks before they scab over and heal. Unfortunately, for some people, the pain doesn't stop when the rash goes away. There's a complication called post-herpetic neuralgia, where nerve damage from the shingles outbreak leaves lingering pain that can last for months or even years. This chronic nerve pain is what makes shingles especially feared. Now, let's get to one of the most asked questions. Is shingles contagious? The answer is a little complicated. You cannot catch shingles directly from someone who has it. However, if you've never had chickenpox or the chickenpox vaccine, then yes, you can catch chickenpox from someone who has active shingles. The fluid inside the blisters carries the virus, so if you come into direct contact with it, you could end up with chickenpox. That said, once the blisters have dried and scabbed over, the virus is no longer contagious. This is why people with shingles are usually advised to cover their rashes and avoid close contact with newborns, pregnant women, or anyone with a weak immune system until the blisters heal. So while shingles itself isn't directly contagious in the way a cold or flu is, it still has the potential to spread the varicella-zoster virus under the right conditions. So, what happens if you get shingles? The good news is that treatment is available, but timing is crucial. Doctors usually prescribe antiviral medications like acyclovir, famciclovir, or valacyclovir. These drugs can help shorten the duration of the illness and make symptoms less severe, but only if you start them within the first 72 hours of noticing symptoms. That's why it's important to see a doctor quickly if you suspect shingles. In addition to antiviral drugs, pain management is often necessary. This can include over-the-counter pain relievers, prescription medications, or even numbing creams to ease discomfort. Rest, cool compresses, and loose clothing can also make the healing process more bearable. While shingles usually isn't life-threatening, it's definitely not something to brush off. Apart from the intense pain, it can sometimes cause serious complications. If shingles appears near the eyes, for example, it can lead to vision problems or even blindness if untreated. In rare cases, it can also affect hearing or cause neurological issues. That's why recognizing the early signs, like tingling, localized pain, or an unusual rash, is so important. Quick treatment can make all the difference in recovery and comfort. So, what exactly are shingles? In short, it's a painful reawakening of the chickenpox virus that's been hiding in your body for years. It's not directly contagious in the usual sense, but it can spread chickenpox to someone who hasn't had it before. It's most common in older adults, but anyone can be affected, especially if their immune system is weakened. The best defenses are early treatment, and even better, prevention through vaccination. If you've ever wondered why people warn so strongly about shingles, it's because those who have gone through it know how rough it can be. And while it's not something you can always avoid, knowing the signs, getting treatment early, and protecting yourself with a vaccine can go a long way in keeping you safe. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.